Is it true that Lord Buddha said that sometimes devas help humans with human problems? Some say that according to scriptures like the Athanatiya Sutta, sometimes deva render assistance to humans who have asked for help. But ultimately, devas can only do this if the human has developed the right wholesome karma. For example, strictly following the 5 precepts in addition to generosity, etc. Is this true?
Probably as a general statement, I think that's true, yeah. Devas are beings with ethereal or subtle bodies, living in heaven realms, in good places, with well-developed minds, well-developed sense of goodness, morality, hiriyottapa. Some may have practiced samadhi and developed insight. And the main way devas can make good karma in their realm is by giving their anumodana to human beings when human beings do good things. They give their anumodana, they appreciate, they support and rejoice in the goodness that human beings are doing, the good things, the good karma. So that's why I say Buddhist temples, Buddhist monasteries, for example, will often have a lot of devas associated with them because they are places where people do good. A few meditators sometimes see or know devas, and they can tell other people, oh, they're true, that devas exist. It's only taking the word of someone, so you have to be a bit cautious. But from the Buddhist scriptures right down to the present day, there are those people who have seen devas and know that these beings exist. Where do they come from? They come from human beings who do good. When they die, they're reborn in a heaven realm maybe, if they haven't yet reached Nibbana. So yes, devas will try to encourage human beings to do good. So sometimes they encourage through a dream. It's one of the ways we dream, is the influence of a deva, maybe giving us a prompt to do something good or to stop us from doing something bad, evil. So warnings, premonitions as well. Occasionally they even can boost or come in when somebody's meditating. They say the devas love to come, on a special occasion, or when the humans are chanting, say like on the full moon days, new moon days, and the humans are chanting paritas or various reflections and in praise of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, then sometimes devas will come and listen because they like to hear the chanting. So occasionally people will have visions of devas or be aware of the presence of devas giving their anumodana to these chants. Probably the famous story is Lumpur Chok, who is one of the disciples of Lumpur Man, who was considered to be an arahant. And monks who lived with him, stayed with him in the forest, say, when he would do his chanting, there'd always be this very pleasant energy around him due to the presence of devas coming to listen to him chant and to worship the Buddha as he chanted. So some monks might have actually seen the devas because their meditation was very clear and they had the divine eye perhaps. Other monks, maybe they just feel the good energy. They don't actually see anything, but they just feel the presence of these beings. So sometimes people feel devas, sometimes they see them. But yeah, they can try to solve human problems or encourage humans to solve their own problems, really, you might say, to give them support in their struggles to get out of suffering. But there's many ways they do that. Sometimes it's just their presence. Sometimes they actually can maybe help somebody in a specific way. It's possible. So like one example is sometimes they say monks out in the forest meet with a wild animal, a tiger or a snake or an elephant, which has somehow been influenced by a deva. They bring that animal to give the monk a chance to see how much attachment, fear, anxiety they may have about encountering such animals. Many teachers have said this before, that this can happen, but it's very hard to prove, and humans love to imagine and let the imagination take over. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time kind of working out if everything that happens in your life is some kind of test coming from the devas. However, many teachers have said it does happen, but probably only in a very few instances for those practitioners who are perhaps quite advanced, and it's worth helping them in their meditation to face a bit of fear or something. Maybe it's useful, but the average person doesn't need this. The average person is just learning to meditate in a more ordinary way, and usually the devas are not there doing much because it's not the right time yet. But if somebody's developed strong meditation, good meditation, skills in their meditation, well then maybe they will encounter a deva in one way or another.
Sadhu Lumpur, the next question. May I know what would you suggest for one's mind state when one is having a conversation? This is so as not to get too emotionally entangled into the other's party emotion. There are times I observe myself feeling drained after talking to certain people. How then can I guide myself to look inwards towards how many percentage am I talking about myself versus how many percentage am I talking to others, about others?
I'm not sure we can control it that well, that we can talk about percentages, but generally talking to other people is like any other part of the Dhamma practice. Our number one aim is to try and bring up mindfulness, to be aware of ourselves in that situation, to be aware of our intentions, what we're thinking, to be aware of what we're going to say before we say it, before we do anything, to be aware. That's our number one aim. And if you're having to engage with a lot of people a lot of the time, well, you have to practice, don't you? Practice bringing up mindfulness before conversations, during conversations, thinking about what you're going to say, who it is, and being aware of your state of mind. So knowing, sometimes if you're really tired or worn out, maybe it's not the best time to talk to someone, and you might have to excuse yourself or find a time to rest until you're ready and talk. You can't always choose, can you? So sometimes you're exhausted or you're already experiencing some suffering, then you still have to talk to people. So you have to use a lot of patience as well. But your number one aim is to be mindful so that you can see the characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self, if you can. Don't take ownership of the words of what they say. You have to be responsible for what you say, obviously, to keep it wholesome, not to make bad karma through unskillful speech. But don't take ownership of their words if the people you're talking to, they display anger or wrong views or something. Well, don't take it personally, don't take ownership. Try not to get angry. Don't try not to be falling into arguments. So that requires mindfulness and then also reflection. It's just what they say. Maybe that what they say is right, maybe it's wrong. If they say something that's true, you have to accept that, even if they're criticizing you, but it's true. Or reflect on that. What they say is true. They may say something that's generally true, and you may immediately take it as a personal attack, but it may not be what they're doing. They're just telling you a truth. So they say, what could they say? A lazy person doesn't do a good job. You may take that as a personal attack. Oh, they're saying I'm lazy, that's not fair, and you get angry. But stop and consider what they've said. A lazy person doesn't do a good job. Well, that's true, isn't it? So there's no need to get upset with what they say, because it's just a general truth they're saying. It's a bit harder if they are more personal, isn't it? You are lazy, you are greedy, you are selfish, you're a bad person, you didn't do this when you should have, you did this when you shouldn't have done it. All kinds of things, more personal, more direct attacks or criticism, that's harder. But still, you want to try and establish mindfulness to keep more calm as you can be, and not get upset, and just talk reasonably, with kindness, be able to listen as well as speak. If the conversation is too difficult, well, you can always postpone it until a different time when you're more ready to speak on that subject. I think these are things you have to learn, but you want to try and keep, number one, keep mindful, and then keep a good, wholesome state of mind in any conversation. Keep to the truth. These are the things the Buddha encouraged, isn't it? Speak the truth, speak with a mind of kindness, be mindful, be aware of who you're talking to, the time, the place, the situation, and do the best you can. And we learn a lot of lessons through poor conversations that we've had in the past, and we learn to speak better. And you just keep learning as you go.
Sadhu Lumpo. Next question. How do we differentiate between Ajahn and Lumpo?
Good question. Well, Ajahn is teacher, literally from the word acharya. Lumpo means venerable father. So it's a slightly more affectionate term perhaps, which is used particularly for someone you may have some kind of more long-term relationship with, or have more stronger faith in. A monk, usually it refers to a monk who you build up faith in, or who's older. Ajahn could be someone a bit younger, and it could still be someone you have faith in and respect for, but they can be used interchangeably as well, and that's maybe where the confusion comes. So, whatever you find easiest. If, say, with me, you could call me Ajahn Kalyano or Lumpo Kalyano. In Australia, sometimes they just say, hey, you, or you guy, your mate. If I'm talking to the builders, they call me mate. So I think the best thing is try to be a little bit flexible. If you're on the receiving end, if you're the one talking, well, just try to be friendly, respectful, whatever term seems appropriate. Don't call monks baldy.
Sadhu Lumpo. Next question. How to practice separating body and mind so that the mind is not suffering when the body is suffering, like being seriously ill?
Well, I know it's difficult, but the aim is to keep practicing mindfulness more and more so that your mind can reflect and see, this body is not self. It's not really me, mine, myself. It's a collection of elements, feelings, sensations that arise, pass away. And when you're mindful, you have a chance to really see that or know that. You do it once, that won't be enough, but you keep doing it. You gradually learn to separate the mind and let go of this habitual identification with the body as self. It's a whole view. I am my body, I am my feelings, I am ill. So we say, don't let your mind become ill when the body is ill. So if you're ill, seriously ill, mildly ill, that's obviously suffering, physical suffering. There'll be painful feelings, discomfort, all kinds of issues, I'm sure. It's unfortunate, but try to keep the right perspective with the mind and know, oh, this is illness, the result of some karma perhaps, but it's not a self. I don't have to react with aversion and disappointment and frustration all the time. I can just know it. Oh, yeah, illness feels like this, it's like this. You get the treatment. If I have the good karma, I'll recover. If I don't, it may not get better. Maybe it's the end of my life and I'm going to die. It depends on the situation. But try not to let your mind get ill, meaning let your mind get caught into the negative reactions to the suffering of the body, but just to know it, witness it, be aware of it, to be patient with it, to be clear, this is not self, this is not me, mine, myself. That takes practice. You have to keep practicing, keep looking and learning from your experience.
Sadhu Lumpo, next question. I was asked by a non-Buddhist friend that why do monks and those observe 8 precepts do not eat after their mid-afternoon meal. Is that a rule laid by Lord Buddha?
Well, it is for monks and nuns. We have a rule we can't eat after noon. We can have a few medicinal things, drinks, and a few things, but no substantial food. And the Buddha was very strict about that. He didn't really allow much in the way of exceptions, even for illness. As I said, we allowed medicines, but not food. So for a monk or a nun, it's just part of the lifestyle. You just get used to it. And actually you can get used to it. Occasionally it can be challenging, but most of the time it's not a problem. 8 precepts is something you take on voluntarily as a layperson. But once you've decided to keep the 8 precepts, yes, it also involves not eating after noon. So you have to be ready for that, mentally ready, physically ready. Perhaps if you're ill, maybe it's not the best time to keep the 8 precepts. If your mind wavers, then that's the part of the training, isn't it? You see your desires come up. Once you keep a precept, it will bring you to see some of your desires, and that's one of the reasons we do it. So you'll have the desire, oh, I want to eat, but then you can't eat because you're keeping the precept. What do you do with that desire? You have to look at it, understand it, and then let go of it. Sometimes we let go by simply sticking it out, being patient with the desire to eat. And you understand, it's just old habits. It's a thing, I've eaten in the evening for all my life, now I've stopped, I'm keeping the 8 precepts, but the memory and the habit will come up in the mind. Okay, you accept that, but you work to let go of the desire, not to indulge the desire, if you're keeping the precept. Until you can see it. It's impermanent, it's not self, it's just a desire that arises, passes away. As I said, if you're hungry, you feel hungry, well, you can also drink things. There's medicines, medicinal things and drinks you can have. Just water will do to fill you up. But also you have to use some insight, see the desire as impermanent, as not self.
Sadhu Lumpo, next question. What is the meaning of Buddhist flag colors?
I'm not expert, but generally it's the colours of the rainbow, isn't it? Red, yellow, blue, white. And if I'm not mistaken, it may vaguely go back to the fact that the Buddha is said to have had a rainbow aura around his citta because all his bharami were complete. His metta and karuna was complete. His mind was pure of defilement. And he could teach anyone because he could understand the character, the personality of anyone he met. There are a few people he couldn't teach, but he would still understand their character and their karma, even if he couldn't teach them. So that translates into this very amazing aura, in the sense, all the colors of the rainbow, means the mind of the Buddha can know and understand all phenomena, all kinds of human beings, all of the different kilesas that human beings get caught into, he can understand because he's abandoned them all. The Buddha is wise. He understands cause and effect, karma. So if someone's experiencing some karma, good or bad, he will know, well, what's happened, what's led up to that, why they're experiencing this. When someone dies, he'll know where they're reborn, and so on. So the mind of the Buddha is complete, radiant, without bounds, without limits. We call the Buddha a sapanyu. He's all-knowing. He can direct his mind to know anything that he wants to know. So the flag of the rainbow colours, is inclusive of everything. It's just a reflection of the mind of the Buddha, I would say. I'm sure other people have other explanations as well, so you may have to ask around a bit or study this a bit.
Sadhu Lumpur, next question. I try hard to practice Dhamma, but being consistent with my practice is really hard. During rain season, woke up early and tried to listen to Dhamma or meditate. But when the season was over, I stopped and did not start for a long time. How do we make practicing meditation a habit of daily life? Should I listen to more Dhamma to realize how dangerous this samsara is? No matter how I try, always going back to worldly things very easily.
Correct. I mean, you've answered it already. You have to make your Dhamma practice a part of your daily life. Somebody was on our meditation retreat. We just had a 7-day monastic retreat, and lay people joined us over Christmas, New Year, and they said to me today, they said, they went home the first day, they were really diligent, meditated, and their meditation was really good. Then the second day home, it all fell apart. That's a quick one. Some people can keep it going for a week or two, and then it all falls apart. So sometimes that's the value of retreats. At least it pulls us up. We practice again, we put more commitment, more effort into our practice, and there's other people practicing with us, and that helps. And then after the retreat, you have this kind of fading away, giving up on the practice, back to square one kind of thing. So it's up to us to make it as part of our daily life. Regular meditation sessions, regular listening to Dhamma, regular practice of generosity and kindness in different ways. Try and make the Dhamma practice your priority the best you can within your situation, because everyone's different, aren't they? Different roles and different situations in their life. Your job or no job, you're married, you're not married, you're old, you're young, you're man, you're woman, everyone is different, but everyone can make the Dhamma practice central to their life. That's what we mean by saying taking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. You take it seriously, you give value to it, you give importance to it. And you do whatever helps you to do that. So, listening to Dhamma will help. Maybe chanting and reciting helps. Maybe making offerings to Sangha helps, because you see them, you hear, you connect with Sangha who keep precepts. It may help. Going on retreats and stuff helps. There's many things we can do, but you're incorporating the Dhamma practice into daily life as much as you can. Otherwise, the worldly life overwhelms us, doesn't it? Jobs, family, money, holidays, going here, going there, and the Dhamma takes back seat, or second place. You have to try and redress that as much as you can.
Sadhu Lumpur, the next question. Do the Deva can understand the Chinese chanting?
Why not? Of course, Devas also have their cultural conditioning. So there may be Devas who previously were Chinese people, Mahayana Buddhists, and some Devas were Christian, and some Devas were non-religion, but they're just good people. And some Devas were Buddhist. So they'll still have certain cultural affinities and cultural conditioning. Also, many Devas will be able to understand things on a level that is beyond ordinary language. You might say the language of the heart, language of the mind. So therefore, somebody who perhaps was of one cultural tradition when they were alive as a human can still understand somebody from another cultural background, because now it's on the level of the mind, the heart, the mood, the thought, and maybe that goes beyond conventional language. So yes, I'm sure there are Devas who understand Chinese chanting, Pali chanting, because those Devas may have been around since the time of the Buddha and heard Pali chanting, or they may have been around a long time since Buddhism was practiced widely in China, and so they have a Chinese background and so on. There may be even Devas who can understand my chanting when I chant. My chanting, I think, is pretty average. It's not particularly good, not particularly bad, but still, some people may not understand my chanting, but maybe some Devas can. Maybe those very sympathetic Devas who listen intently and go, oh yeah, I get it. Ajahn Kalyano is chanting the Bojjhanga. Okay, I get that, yep. Devas are fast. Their mind very fast, so they're not impeded by so much thinking as humans. Humans think a lot, too much, and get distracted. Maybe Devas are much more tuned in. So when you chant things in whatever language, maybe they're picking up straight away on the piece, the meaning, and they may get something from it that in a very fast, a very quick way as well. Some teachers, I remember once Lumpur Uttama came to Wat Mapjan. He came to bless a Buddha statue we had just made and install Buddha relics. It's a very joyous occasion, so everyone thought, there's probably a lot of Devas here because there's relics of the Buddha, very good monks, lots of lay people. But he also went up to the main hall as a kind of extra additional part of the program, went to the main hall, he sat down and decided he was going to do some Prita chanting there. So this wasn't on the program, but he, out of compassion, I think, and to celebrate the occasion, he did that. When he sat down, he hit the bell like this. He just hit the meditation bell in the hall, and those monks who could see with their special meditative eyes said, oh, when he hit the bell, all the Devas came instantly. So Devas are like that, they're very fast, and if there's a good occasion where they can come and rejoice in something good, hear chanting, there's offerings being made, people are meditating, Devas can come instantly. They're that fast because they're not bound by the physical laws of a human body and the human realm. So it is true, when you talk about Devas, there's certain things that don't really apply to humans, but do apply to Devas.
Sadhu Lumpur, the next question. What if we are older than Ajahn Kalyano?
Poor you. You can still call someone younger than you Lumpur. Many older monks call me Lumpur Kalyano. So Lumpur means venerable father. It doesn't necessarily mean my father. It means somebody who is like a father. So you can call anyone like a father. It's like, Visakha was called Migara's mother. So her father-in-law would call her mother because she is so good, so virtuous, with such strong faith in the Buddha, so smart, so wise, so peaceful, had all these good qualities, and she brought him to have faith in the Buddha. He called her mother, even though he was older. He was the father-in-law, but he called her mother. So sometimes it's a kind of recognition of somebody's, what they've done for you personally, or just their role in the world. So you may be older than them, but you can call them lumo, or you can call them Ajahn. Sometimes if they're really old, we call them lumpu, venerable grandfather. So lumpu man, we called him lumpu man, still do. So there's variations here, but age doesn't have to be the only guideline here. It can also be how you feel, how you treat someone. You probably wouldn't call a teenage novice lumo, but they do call teenage novices an elder sometimes, because sometimes teenage novices become enlightened. And so it's appropriate to see them like an elder. They're very wise, very smart, very pure. So there's a little bit of flexibility here in the way you relate to what you say, teachers, meditation masters. It depends on the tradition as well.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. May I know if this is a right view for one who is about 38 years old? One prioritizes faith towards their career. Though one has a family to manage, when one earns sufficient but not a lot, is this right view? I was thinking, if planning for my retirement and etc., I do feel that this is part of greed. On the other hand, I hope I have funds to support me to attend retreats in future when my children grow up. Is this the right thinking to support oneself and family in this worldly life? I know from one Bhante when he shared that one has to grow both in worldly and spiritual wealth. Or can I just choose either one? My intention of asking this question is hoping to omit from any wrong view that I could be holding on to.
Well, good question. One thing with, when you say that you don't want to hold on to worldly wrong views or worldly views or wrong views, this is an ongoing thing. It's not like you can just say, oh, now I have right view. You have to keep contemplating this and reassessing your views and the way you look at things over time. So it's not a one-off thing, it's a constant thing. And also your status, your situation may change over time. Like children grow up and get older, then maybe you don't have so much to do for them because they're now able to look after themselves. So that's one big change, I think, in a family situation. And we have to prioritize. I think even Dhamma practice allows for that. So, if you're a parent and you've got young kids, well, they probably are your priority because they're young. They need help. They need to be brought up properly by their parents. So that may be your priority, but that doesn't mean to say you can't practice the Dhamma. It just means you have to do it, your parental duties and responsibilities within the framework of Dhamma, and practice Dhamma within your family situation. So you can still keep precepts, you can still find a little bit of time to meditate. I know it may be hard with young kids, but you can still find a little bit of time. You can still find time to listen to Dhamma. You can introduce your kids to offering dana, even meditation, all kinds of aspects of Buddhism. You can introduce them to that. So yeah, if you have family, you have kids, you will have to look after them, so you'll need money. So yes, you'll have to work for that, I assume. But you can also learn to be frugal and use your money well so that you can have a bit of money left for the future or for going on retreat. You do the best you can in your situation within your means. You do the best you can. If you really want the freedom to be able to go on retreats and practice the Dhamma, well, don't get married and don't have kids. But if it's already happened, you're already married, you already have kids, well, you have to do the best you can within that situation until your kids are old enough to look after themselves. But just use the Dhamma in every aspect of life to manage yourself, your own suffering, your own problems as you look after your family, to deal with the world, fellow workers and going out to earn money. You need some Dhamma there, patience, effort, sila, right livelihood. And then as you get more experience in the Dhamma, maybe you can learn how to apply it better and how to maybe find a bit of time to go on retreat. If you've got two parents, maybe one goes on retreat, the other looks after the kids, and then they can swap. There are different things you can do within your situation. So you look at how you can practice the Dhamma within your situation as a parent, as a family member, with your job, your life situation. How can you practice the Dhamma? You just try and apply it to your particular circumstances.
Sadhu Lumpu. The next question. Would Goenka's way of body sweeping with equanimity one way of the kind of practice as Ajahn advised on the above query?
Yeah, if you can do it, it's good. We're always aiming for equanimity. Coming with the practice of mindfulness directed to the body is a good way to develop equanimity. But of course, we lose our equanimity, we lose our mindfulness. So we have to keep returning, and often a simple meditation object such as the breath is a good way to strengthen your mindfulness, to make it really continuous and strong, and then maybe do more body sweeping and contemplation of the body. Or any other meditation object you use. It could be Buddha, Anusati, recollection of the Buddha. These samatha, what we call samatha objects, are to help make your mindfulness really strong, continuous. Then you can experience states of calm. Then your contemplation or your practice of insight may be more effective. So you do the best you can, but fine. If you find that technique works for you, keep going and learn to be really good at body sweeping with equanimity. Just do it really well.
Next question. Thank you for sharing this profound Dhamma. I am from Bulgaria. Can Venerable Lumpo explain difference between Wiana and Citta?
Hello to the practitioner in Bulgaria. I was once in Bulgaria many, many years ago, and I got eaten alive by mosquitoes because it was the middle of the summer. That's my only memory of Bulgaria. I hope you have a better experience. You probably learned where the good places are, where you don't get eaten alive by mosquitoes are. So Vijnana and Citta, well, often they're really just different words for the same thing. Citta is a nice simple word, so we use that a lot. Citta, the mind, that which knows. Vijnana generally is used, you can say Citta Vijnana, so that sort of is one thing. Or you can say, you divide up, say, the senses, the six senses into consciousness. Vijnana often translates as consciousness. So, eye consciousness, chakku vijnana, ear consciousness, sota vijnana. So it's the one mind, you have one mind as it were, but it's arising either with the ears, or the eyes, the nose, the tongue, or the mind itself. Six doorways. Consciousness arises when the conditions are right. You have healthy eyes, there's light, there's something to be seen. You avert your attention to the eyes, you're looking, then eye consciousness can arise. course, in deep meditation, maybe you're not aware of your 5 external senses anymore. You still know things, so you're more with the citta, and you may get to a point where you're not sensing your body and the normal consciousness externally. You're just knowing the citta itself. But also you can know the citta through thoughts and mental states. Wholesome, the way the Buddha described it in Satipatthana Sutta, wholesome mental state, unwholesome mental state, peaceful, not peaceful, very narrow, very expanded. There's different ways we can know the mind. It's more like the reflections of the mind. The different kinds of mental state are a reflection of the mind, the citta. And there's the contents of the citta, what we call cetasika, the mental states, feeling, and so on. It's one of the interesting things in Buddhism. You can have a single word like citta or vijnana, but you can unpack it. And if you study the suttas and the Abhidhamma, you can unpack it and see, well, there's a lot behind one single word. It turns up in different ways, different areas, is used in different ways. But at the same time, sometimes for meditation, it's good to not analyze too much or go too much into the sort of philosophical or psychological background, but maybe just get to the point of something. So like citta is that which knows. So as you're training in mindfulness, you're getting to know this quality of that which knows, so you get a chance to be with the citta and know the citta very well. Anyway, citta means mind or that which knows.